a lot of times when people think of a book, they think it has to be perfect. And like, oh, if I write something down, it has to be so good and people are going to have to read it. What do you say about that? Like the perfection of if this goes into a book, it has to be perfect and then people never get it done.
People never get it done. Yes. Don't let perfect get in the way of done.
Yeah.
Um, where people really trip themselves up, I think, or in my experience, is they choke their message by trying to perfect the surface of it,
Mm.
the words of it. Whereas if they would learn the structures, like the hero's journey structure, the myth bust structure, the structure of how to talk about what you do, there are structures underneath that. So you can lean confidently into those structures, and then you don't choke your voice with this energy of
Yeah.
perfectionism, and it can be so valuable. The other thing that is so cool, I mean, I'm so grateful to all of the technology that we have now. When my first book came out in 2005, which was endorsed by Dr. Wayne Dyer, my hero, it was so much more difficult to change a book or publish a book or whatever, distribute a book. But
Mm-hmm.
now, if you publish your book and then you get a wonderful endorsement from your hero,
Mm-hmm.
Brett Snodgrass, you can change the PDF, and a day later, your book is revised.
Mm.
So this is really the only way I get books done. I tell myself, you know what, Aurora, if you get some extra you can add it. And my current book, Turn Words into Wealth, I mean, every time it wins an award, my poor layout designer, I'm like, sorry, but can you change
Yeah.
the cover again? Because the book's won another award and that,
Wow.
or we list them inside. So,
Yes.
and also, sorry, one more thing on that. If you really are a stand to help your community and your clients and your family and your church, then just get over yourself.
Mm.
It's not about you being perfect so that they can bow at your altar. It's
Mm.
about you making a difference. And
Yeah.
if you're withholding your story or delaying sharing your story, I mean, what could that cost the person who's praying for that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It could, you know. So
Wow.
that's another great tip.
I love that. I love that humble answer because again, it's not about you; it's about making a difference in people's lives. And that's my message on this podcast is just how can you be significantly making a difference in people's lives. And so such a good message, guys. Make sure you get the Turn Words into Wealth, and then also the small book, the Marketing Fast Track. Check that out from Aurora. And I want to talk about this to flip it over a little bit. So we're talking about books here, but some people are listening to this and they're like, that's so old school. No one holds a book anymore. They all watch videos. People are on YouTube. You have to do videos. That's what people want to do. 1 minute clips on TikTok, whatever it is. What do you say to that in this modern culture?
Yeah, I say it's not either or, it's both and.
Mm-hmm.
And I really help people with their message. So then you can broadcast your message multiple places: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. And if you are an expert or a leader and you don't have a book on Amazon, you are missing out on the number 3 search engine.
Mm. Wow.
So that's huge, right? So I think that the other thing is, well, I am completely biased. So don't trust me with this opinion, but I love books. There's just something magical about books. They're like
Mm.
telepathy that can time travel. And I feel like books are, books can last decades or hundreds of years or even thousands of years. Whereas I love podcasts, I love video, but they're more like magazines.
Mm-hmm.
People want the
The new
latest
one,
one.
yeah. Yeah. They don't
Right?
watch, like, if you got 332 episodes, they don't watch number 10. They watch
Exactly.
332. So, yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though the value in number 10 could still be great, and maybe take the content of number 10 and put it into your book, and people will read it.
Yeah, exactly. And
So,
I love the concept of books because I heard this one time, forget who said it, but it's almost like you have this credibility and people don't give out business cards anymore. But if you give a book, people throw away business cards all the time, but they never throw away a book. Like you said, people still have their books on their shelf. It's so hard to throw away a book, isn't it?
it's so hard to
Yeah.
throw away a book,
Yeah.
and it's such a great referral process. And also, if you're warming up a lead or adding more value to a prospect, you give them a book. It's like the best thing.
Yeah.
And it can still say, in the book could even say, go here to get more videos or to get some other value.
Yeah.
But if you're talking to a friend and you're like, oh, you really have to talk to my dentist, or you've got to connect with Brett, he's fantastic to do real estate, then they're like, well, what's his name? Like, share the contact. It's like all awkward. But if you just hand a book, they're like, oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And so just you talk about this kind of the new economy. So I want to kind of hit on that a little bit. So number one, you talk about 2005, you published your first book. And I always remember authors talking about, I sent my book to 10 publishers. They all said no. They all rejected me. And it was awful. And finally one said yes. And now I'm in all the bookstores and it's awesome. But the new economy, the new book publishing is completely different. So how easy is it today versus 16 years ago?
Right. The myth is that you need a big New York Times publisher. The fact is you do not, and you're better off self-publishing. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Sorry, I forgot the precise question, but basically, I'm an entrepreneur and also a writer. Mm-hmm. So as an entrepreneur, I think you're absolutely insane to go the traditional publishing method. It's like yesterday's news. It's mm-hmm. like, it's done. It's an old model. It's a dinosaur. You want to own your intellectual property and your lead magnet. You want to be able to modify it or update it. It's your story. It's your expertise. It's your voice. Especially nonfiction, which is what I primarily focus on helping my clients, although I do help people with fiction as well, but primarily a nonfiction book for an entrepreneur or a leader is the way to go. So an example of that, David Goggins, you may know him. Yeah. He is not a writer. In fact, he's dyslexic. He doesn't really particularly like words, and he's not a word wrangler. And he'd be the first to admit that. And he worked with another writer. And he was told by a New York agent, the worst advice he ever got was this New York agent said, if you self-publish, the most number of copies you'll sell will be 5,000. So he struggled with that, but he said, it's my story. I don't want to be asking for permission to share my life story, from Penguin Random House or HarperCollins. So he decided to independently publish, because self-publishing, we don't say anymore, but independent publishing, but listeners know. And the result was within 1 year, he sold about 1 million copies of the book and about 600,000 copies of the audiobook. So roughly, if he had not self-published, it would have cost him about $20 million.
Wow. Thank you so much for checking out the Brett Snodgrass channel. If you like this video, please slam on that like button. And if you really like it, then subscribe to our channel here. And remember to leave us a comment below, and I'm going to try my hardest to reply to all the comments. Thank you guys so much. This is why I do what I do. Every single week, I come out with content that focuses on success, freedom, and living out your purpose. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.